Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Lynn Smargis, also known as the Unicorn Ghostwriter, who helps thought leaders, speakers, and executives turn their ideas into published books in as little as 90 days, writing up to 10,000 words a day and guiding them through a self-publishing process that keeps full creative control in their hands. How you doing today, Lynn?
I'm doing well, Anthony. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here.
No, I was excited to have you on. I don't know what it is. I up until recently have never talked to a ghostwriter before in my life, and then all of a sudden, there's five of you guys. So I'm supposed to figure something out here. It's the universe telling me, hey, talk to people, and you're doing awesome things, and you're helping a lot of people. And there's a lot of us that have a book in there that we're wanting to get out. So I'm excited. There's people like you out there. But to start off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, so I'm located just outside of Portland, Oregon, just south of Portland. I love the area I live in. Super cool people here, lots of creators in this space. So I love living here. Lots of great food. If you ever want to go vacation in a place with fabulous food, come to Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. Have you been there for a while then, or
I have been here for, it'll be 4 years it's almost 4 years now that I've been here.
Okay, awesome. So you have your haunts. If you have friends coming into town that have never visited before, where are you going? What are you doing? And you mentioned dinner. There's a lot of good places, but where are you taking them for dinner?
Oh, yeah. So first, if they like cocktails and drinks, I would take them to this place. It's called Khan. So it's actually, Khan is the restaurant. And so they have Susel, which means basement in Haitian. And the man who owns it, the chef who owns it, is Haitian. And he has Khan, which is this fabulous restaurant in Portland. It's one of the most sought after restaurants. And it takes like a couple months to get a reservation in there. And then Susel is his basement bar that is the coolest underground basement bar you have ever seen. The most fabulous cocktails. All the food there is gluten-free, and I'm celiac, so I'm super excited. That's where the first place I take all my friends who have never been to Portland or have been to Portland and haven't been to Susel, because Susel is fabulous. And they're always impressed. They love it. They have a great time. The food is fantastic at this bar too, because they just bring food over from the restaurant. So what to do in Portland? The things I love to bring people to are the Portland Art Museum, the Japanese Garden, and also the Portland Art Museum, the Japanese Garden, and just like walking around some of the shopping districts in Portland, because there's a lot of really great shopping districts that you don't get big box stores. You get a lot of like the local people creating things or bringing things in from other local creatives. So it's a really fun place to just shop for super cool stuff you can't find anywhere else on the planet.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So you're saying if you have friends coming into town, let them know ahead of time so you can get a good reservation, is what you're saying?
Yes, you have to get a reservation even for the bar. You cannot, you can try to walk into the bar, but it might be 2 hours until you get a seat. So I always get a reservation ahead of time.
I got you. That's awesome. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. What is it that you do? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm a ghostwriter, which means, so technically a ghostwriter means anytime someone hires somebody, even if it's for a blog, and they write material for you and content, but they don't put their name on it. But typically what traditionally people think of as a ghostwriter is, I have a book in my head. I have no idea where to start. I don't know what the process is for self-publishing. I need somebody to help me write this book and get it published under my name. And so that's what I do as a ghostwriter. Is part of it is writing the content. But part of it is also book coaching. Like a lot of people don't know that most of what I do as a ghostwriter is actually book coaching, which means I help people make the decisions on their book, like what ideas are good decisions to put in their book, what content is not a good decision to put in their book, like, adding more stories. Should I add more stories? Should I not add more stories to my book? Like, where do I need to go with this? What is the focus of my book? What is the purpose of my book? So those are all things I help people figure out on a daily basis. And those are the things that people mostly get stuck with, that and starting their book. So as a ghostwriter, that's what I do, is I work with people to get them past all of those either personal challenges or business challenges for writing a book, to get them from idea to published content on Amazon.
That's awesome. How'd you get started? What was that journey like? Is this something you've always wanted to do, or was it a happy accident?
So it was part happy accident, part of what I wanted to do. So I started out with travel writing, and that was going fabulously until March of 2020, when I lost almost all my clients the second week of March. And then I had to pivot, because if you don't pivot, then you can't have a business. So then I went into content marketing, which I was doing really well. And some of my clients were like, hey, can you write a book for me? And I was like, sure, why not? So I started writing books and found out what I really love is to write books for people. I do some content marketing, but it's mostly for clients that I'm writing books for, and help them with like writing some book marketing content, things like that. But typically, but so that's how I ended up actually in ghostwriting, was partly by accident because I loved writing. I was already a writer, but then organically it happened that I went into ghostwriting, and then a lot of my ghostwriting clients were asking me for publishing services. So then I recently, just a few months ago, morphed my only ghostwriting business into publishing. So I am the only self-publisher that I am aware of that actually walks people through the entire self-publishing process as a ghostwriter and helps them self-publish their book on their creative terms. So I don't have like year 2 year contracts. I don't have, you have to buy 1,000 books minimum. Like I literally book coach people and coach people, walk them through the process. They have complete creative control over their book cover, their editing, their everything. And then they have a fabulous book that they absolutely love at the end. And then they're a published author on Amazon. And then they can take their book and do whatever they want with it, whatever goals or dreams they have planned with their book.
That's awesome. What is it that you love most about what you're doing?
I think the thing that I love most about what I'm doing is the look on my client's face when they publish their book. Like, for example, my latest client who just published last week, his name is Tom Schott. You can go on Amazon and find his book. It's called Dreams Take Flight. And it's a story about how he created all of these world disc events in Southern California in the mid 70s. And he was one of the first people to do that. And he's 80 years old and he published his first book, which shows A, you can start a book at any age, and B, it doesn't matter what topic you're doing. So he's doing a memoir because he wants to write all this history down so that the new people who are playing golf, like disc golf, who are in their 20s and teens, understand where it's come from and what the roots are. So I think the biggest thing for me is helping my clients, working with them to get that bucket list item done that they've been wanting to do for years. Because he's like, I've been wanting to do this for 5 years, and he's like, I know I'm not getting any younger. So it's really exciting that when we hit that publish button on Amazon, and to see his face, and he was literally screaming in his house, Anthony. And I said, Tom, you better tell your neighbors why you're screaming so no one calls the cops.
Yeah, no, I love stories like that because people will be like, I'm in my 30s. It's too late for me to be a published author. What are you talking about?
It is never. I saw like one lady was like 97 when she published her first book. You're never too old to publish your first book, ever.
Yeah, but then you'll have people, no matter what, there's going to be an excuse. Well, she's had 97 years to think about it. I've only thought about it for 50, right? So
Right.
you're
Well,
going to
you
run
can
into
make
excuses.
as many excuses as you can think of to stop yourself from doing whatever you want to do, because we are our own worst enemies.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome. Well, when you're looking at like your average client, what does that look like? Or what are the pain points that somebody might be going through that if they're dealing with X, Y, or Z, you're the person best suited to help them?
Yeah. So a few pain points that, well, like very typically a lot of almost all of my clients go through are, one is just getting their book outlined. Like they're like, okay, I know I want to write it on this. I don't know like maybe what direction it is to go in, or maybe they know a direction they want to go in, but they're not sure like how to outline the book so that it clarifies to the reader that's going to be reading it, like what is the purpose of this book and how is it going to affect the reader, right? Like how is it going to impact the reader, or what impact do they want to have on the reader? So that's one big thing I help my clients out with a lot. Another thing is the organization of their content. A lot of people are like, okay, I know I want to have this type of content, but I don't know what order I want to put it in. And I'm really good with organizing, and I'm excellent at ideation, which means like I can come up with more ideas than anyone could ever use in their lifetime. So if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas for your book or where you want your book to go next, I'm excellent at doing that. And I help my clients out with that a lot. I'm always willing to give my professional advice. And people will say like, okay, do you think I should put this story in the book? And I'll say, I think you should, or I think you shouldn't. And the thing with stories is a lot of times people have a hard time deciding if they want to put certain stories in their book. And I'm really good at helping them with that, because one of the main things is you should always put a story in your book if it like exemplifies what you're writing about, or if it's trying to get your point across better, right? Like it gives an example of your purpose of your book, or the purpose of your chapter, or the purpose of the piece of content you're writing, right? Don't ever just put a story in just to put a story in, because no one wants to just read a story. I mean, stories are fun and they're great. And I always, tell people put a story in your book, but only if it's relative to your content. So those are really kind of the big three things I help people with, especially with starting off. People so stumble on starting their book. And so I'm really good at helping people just get their book started. And once they get past that initial roadblock, Anthony, they're so excited to get started on their book. They're just like, they're jacked up. They're like, I'm ready to go. I can't wait to move forward, because they've gotten past that big hurdle in the front. And that I'm really good at helping people with getting past their big first hurdle.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, getting that ball rolling, I imagine that's people need that kick, right? Get
Yeah.
get it moving. So that's awesome. What about power partners? Who do you synergize well with? Other professionals or industries that you find a lot of luck collaborating with or referring back and forth with?
Yeah. So, power professionals for me are people who train speakers. So, if you're out there and you train speakers and you need someone to refer for ghostwriting, I'm an excellent power partner because I can refer them back to speaker trainers as well because I work with speakers. Another power partner would be anyone who is like a PR marketing agency that works with executives that they want to put a book out to show that they are the expert in their vertical. That's another great power partner. A third great power partner would be anybody in the marketing space that also has clients that are executives, coaches, and speakers who want to create books, or they are like a branding agency that they love to do the branding part, but they don't necessarily like to do the writing part. Because I love to do the writing part, but I definitely don't do the actual, like, I can give my clients advice on like branding for their book and stuff like that, but I don't do the whole big picture branding. So I collaborate with, I have quite a few power partners that do branding, and then I do the writing piece as well. And this is Hemingway for people who are watching the video.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, he looks a lot like Teddy. He's over there sleeping. He'll make his entrance when he feels like it.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. So, a lot of people have an idea, like, hey, I want to start a book, and they might have a very narrow idea of why. A lot of people, they look at books as, oh, it's a good lead magnet, or it's a good way for me to, have some credibility. What are some of the big reasons that somebody would want a book in the first place?
So what you just mentioned, Anthony, the credibility piece is huge. Like it's so funny because I'm a 4X author, right? So I tell people about like, oh yeah, I've got this book, and then I say I got a second book, and people are like mind blown, right? Because you've written a book, you've written more than one book. So credibility is a big piece. Like if you talk to somebody, right, and you say like, oh yeah, I'm an author, and if you have your book on you and you give somebody a copy, you've just up leveled like 100 levels in their book, right? Like in their book, in their mind, in their eyes, right? Like they're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually talking to an author. Like I had one lady say, I can't believe I just got a book from like a signed book from an author because I have one of my books, the Senior Solution. So it teaches people how to help take care of their parents as they age. And I overheard her talking about it, and I happened to have a copy in my backpack, and I signed it and gave it to her. And so that was really exciting. So definitely to put yourself in that space where like you're separate from everybody else because you have a book and they don't. Like that's one reason. To use it as a calling card. Like if you have a business and you also want to be separated by using a calling card, like you just got a discovery call and you tell your potential lead, hey, can I send you my book? Well, oh my gosh, like how many other people did they have a discovery call that week with that had a book? Probably none, or maybe one other person. And that's really rare. So handing off your book as like a lead magnet slash calling card is really fabulous. And if you're a speaker, the one way to get more speaking gigs and better paid speaking gigs is by having a book. Now, do you have to have a book to be a speaker? No, but you want to take every advantage possible if you're a speaker by having a book so that when you do your speaking gig, you can sell your book, but it also, again, separates you from everybody else who doesn't have a book.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to a new or aspiring entrepreneur?
Oh, entrepreneur. So the advice I would give to a newer aspiring entrepreneur is to first do what a lot of people forget to do because you're very excited about starting a new business is to check out other people in your space and to see what they're doing because you really want to niche down and don't make the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make of thinking, oh, I want to be for everybody. That's not what you want to be. You don't want to be for everybody. Like I'm not a ghostwriter for everybody. I'm a ghostwriter for speakers, executives, and people who want to get ahead in their career. I'm not a ghostwriter for people who are just kind of like, oh, I just want to write this little ebook to put out as a lead magnet for my business. That's fine. And I can do that for people, but that's not who I am. Right. So I think my best piece of advice is to figure out who you're for, to figure out your avatar, and to draw a picture or to make a picture of that avatar, to write it out like, it's a person who's between the ages of 30 and 45 and they're female or male or they're whatever, right? And so like make that picture to know who you're talking to and to know what space that you're working in relationship to that person. That would be my advice for new entrepreneurs.
That's fantastic advice, especially as you're networking, because if you can give somebody a very narrow idea of who to introduce you to, you'll get those introductions as opposed to, well, just anybody that would like a book. Everybody wants a book. Who am I going to introduce you to? But if you're like, man, I really best serve helping people, women between 35 and 45, who, are trying to grow in business. You can
Hmm.
think of 2 or 3 of those people I can introduce you to now. It's not going to be something that gets backburnered and forgotten. So that's fantastic advice, and people need to hear it frequently because it's really,
Yes.
really easy to fall into, oh, I'll help anybody kind of
It
trap.
is because you want to, you're thinking, right? Because it's kind of counterintuitive because you're thinking, I want more clients, and thinking in that thinking span, right? You're thinking, I want to reach everybody, but you really don't. You want to reach a certain demographic of people who you're going to best serve, and you have to figure out who that is. And you might not figure it out at first. Like I didn't, like I was in travel writing and I thought I was going to be in that forever. But when March 2020 came around, not only did I lose jobs, but a lot of the people in the industry left the industry. So I lost like all of my contacts. So I knew like, okay, I need to do something completely different because I don't want to go back out there and find all new contacts again.
Absolutely. So, what is the process of going from a book idea to being a published author in under 90 days?
Yeah. So if you want to do it in under 90 days, we obviously hop on a discovery call because I always make sure that whoever I'm working with is a good fit personality wise and a good fit like work wise, because we are going to be best friends for the next 90 days. Like you're going to see more of me than your partner, your cat, your dog, and your child. So anyway, but all joking aside, like we do a discovery call because I want to make sure we're a good fit. Because if we're not a good fit, I can refer you to other ghostwriters that I know who might be a better fit for you. But if we're a good fit, then we move on and I set up all of your Google Drive stuff. So I set up like I give everybody templates for front and back matter. And then our next call, we get on, we figure out, we go through your outline and get all that sorted out. And then we decide how much of your book do you want me to write? How much do you want to write? Like, for example, one of my current clients, her name is Jennifer Longworth. She just put out a fabulous book. So if you're making a podcast, get this book. It's called Build a Strong Podcast by Jennifer Longworth. You can't miss it on Amazon. It's hot pink and black cover. And she had to write one of her chapters because she had a specific process she does calls the podcast pyramid. I could not write that for her. So that was specifically something she was going to write on her own. And then I went back and edited it. So we go and decide who's going to write what. Do you want a glossary? Do you not want a glossary? Do you want me to write it? Do you want to write it? Most of the time, my clients just have me write a glossary because it's super easy to do. And so we decide who's going to write what. And then we meet on a regular, we set up a schedule to meet on a regular basis. So if it's a 90-day project, we meet every week for an hour to decide. And then we figure out on that hour, who's going to do what. So like, am I writing chapter 4 and 6 by the time we meet next? And you're doing chapter 5, who's doing what? Am I editing these chapters and you're writing them? I have one client who he does a lot of podcast interviews. So he takes his podcast interviews, he transcribes them, and then he goes through the initial transcription because he knows what the context was when he was thinking about it. And then I go through and transcribe his transcription translation into book material because the way you talk is different than the way you read a book. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm just going to take my transcription and make it a book, it does not work that way. It doesn't even work that way with blogs. That is what's known in the industry as a blog book, and that is horrible. You don't ever want to read a blog book. It does not flow well at all. It is painful to read. So anyway, after we go through all that and figure out who writes what, we set a date for meeting to get on Amazon, and I sit on Amazon with my client and I walk them through like how to upload everything. If they want me to do the formatting and the book cover, I can do that too. We work out prices for all that stuff. And then we upload everything into Amazon, and then they order their proof copy, which is the first copy that you get, which has a gray line across it that says not for resale. And then once they get that and they approve it, then they can order however many books they want from Amazon directly. I do not handle any of the money. I don't have any creative rights to any of their thing. If they want to publish under Unicorn Publishing Company, they can, but they retain all the copyright on their book. I don't touch any copyright, which a lot of other publishers try to get a hold of. So then they have a published book. So then if they want me to help them with marketing, I can. Most of my clients just like to do their own marketing, which is perfectly fine. If they want a super extensive like marketing program that's super hardcore, I can refer them to a book marketing specialist who will like go all out and do all of those things for them. And so, and I have lots of other professionals in my industry. Like one of my clients, I just referred her to a branding person because she's rebranding for her new book. And so I've got lots of other professionals, and I am the first person to admit, like, if I can't help you with something, I've got somebody. I know a guy too, Anthony. So I've got someone I can refer to because I know I am not an expert in every field and every topic, and I don't want to claim to be. I am an expert at ghostwriting books, nonfiction books for my clients, and I do that very well and help them get self-published on Amazon.
Absolutely. And then we're talking about self-publishing. How can self-publishing give authors more creative control over their books?
Oh, self-publishing and traditional publishing are night and day difference. So let's start off with a traditional publisher. So typically with a traditional publisher, you are going to have to write out a multi-page pitch for your book. It's got to be super convincing. You're going to have to publish it to at least, excuse me, you're going to have to pitch it to at least 100 publishers before, and then most of them are going to say no. I'm actually having a guy on my podcast. It's called Publishing for Professionals. He's coming on to talk about how he pitched 200 publishers and all of them said no. So he ended up creating his own publishing company to publish his books. Now, so you don't have to create your own publishing company to publish your books. You can just publish under your own company. But with the traditional publisher, they're typically going to want you to, like, if you do get accepted, and you may not, they're typically going to want you to have a 10,000 person email list. So you have to have 10,000 people on your email list because they're going to want you to do most of the marketing, which most people think the publishers are, and they're not. They're going to require you to buy a minimum amount of books, which is usually 1,000. So if you think of 1,000 books times $7 or $8 to print a book, that's $8,000 that you're out right there. They may give you some money for advertising, for book marketing, and that's going to depend on many different factors. But you're not going to probably get enough money to market your book enough to make enough money back that all of the money you've just spent out, because they require you to get a minimum amount of books. The average person who goes with a regular traditional publisher makes about $238 a month with a book. If you figure you spent $7,000 to $10,000 just in buying books, that's not including the publisher fee the publisher is going to charge you and all that stuff. So it's very hard to get into a publisher. And then once you get in, it's a very big expense. With self-publishing, it's the complete opposite. Now, I will say this. One of the things publishers are good for is getting you a nice quality looking book, right? Like, they do a good job at that. The only thing is you don't get to have final say on what your book cover looks like. And I've had people who are professionals in the podcasting industry get a book back and their book cover was literally just like, it looked like print block letters, and there was like no creativity whatsoever, and they have no say over it, right? The other thing is you have no say over who the editor is they pick or how they edit your book. The one story I'll share with you is a gal who I talked to who literally cried when she got her book back from the editor because it didn't even sound like her anymore. Like, that's not what happens when you self-publish your book. So when you self-publish your book, you have complete control. You don't have anybody to guide you through the process unless you hire somebody like me. But that's what I do. So with self-publishing, you don't have the barrier. You don't have to buy a minimum amount of books because you're publishing what's called publishing on demand on Amazon. So if you order 100 books, you get 100 books. If you order 10 books, you get 10 books. There's no minimum on Amazon to buy. So it's much less upfront cost, but then you don't have the person guiding you through. So that's why I created this in-between service, right? So like, I'm not the traditional publisher, but you're also not out on your own guessing on what step to do next, because publishing has a lot of different options and a lot of steps, and people get confused on what to do. And there's a ton of people out there, Anthony, that are just trying to take advantage of other creators. And as a creator, I will not do that. I will never take advantage of my fellow creators. I have complete respect for other creators, and I want them and their book to do fabulously well, and I want them to be happy with their book. So self-publishing is an easier way to go, because even if you want to go with a traditional publisher later on, I always say self-publish your first book, because then when you do pitch a traditional publisher, then you can say, oh, I've already self-published this book. This is what it is. So they can see you have quote unquote street cred in the publishing industry, right? But a lot of people think a traditional publisher will help them with like publishing their book, or people will think that their book is better because it's published with a publisher. And all of those are misnomers. Like, those are not true at all. So I would say if you are going for your first book, absolutely self-publish. I always recommend people to self-publish their first book.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that first-time authors make, and how can they avoid it?
I think just what I just said, just mentioning like the fact that they think that having a traditional publisher will get them further or sell them more books, and it really doesn't. Having a traditional publisher doesn't get you more books. It just gives the publisher another thing to say, like, hey, we got this popular, author on our side. It's more of the feather in their cap that they're looking for than a feather in your cap. I mean, I can't tell you how many times has anybody ever asked you, or how many times, Anthony, have you gone into a book and been like, oh, who's the publisher? I mean, I do that because I'm in publishing, but most people don't do that. Or if they do, they don't think like, oh, I'm never going to refer this amazing book to somebody because it's not a publisher that I know. Right. So yeah, I think that's the biggest misnomer, is just thinking that going with a traditional publisher is going to help you sell books, because it really doesn't.
Yeah, I think we're a lot of that's shifting. I imagine 10 years ago it was probably more so than it is now because it's become more, I guess, available, more well known. I guess.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
also
if
become more socially accepted. Like 20 years ago, you self-publish a book, people are like, "Oh, you must not be a good writer. God, you must be like the world's crappiest writer because a publisher wouldn't even pick you up." Nowadays, like everybody is self-publishing their book. Like it's a very well accepted. I think it's definitely mainstream now. Whereas 20 years ago it was unheard of. 10 years ago, people were just starting to really do it and get into it with Amazon. And Amazon, you're going to sell 80% of your books on Amazon. So another really quick misnomer is that you want to put your books in like Barnes and Noble and big stores. Like I would say go for the independent stores, but you don't want to go for the big stores because if you give them 10 books and they don't sell them, you have to buy your books back. So not only have you already spent the shipping and everything to send them those books, you have to buy them back and ship them back to yourself, which isn't, so you're losing money on your book. So I would say that's another big misnomer. If you, as long as you have it on Amazon, that's where most people buy their book. And then you can purchase it on your own to like, give out if you're speaking or talking or doing a workshop or a booth.
absolutely. Why you? What sets you apart from everybody else out there doing something similar?
Well, one thing is definitely I get a lot of comments on is people are like, I love your energy. Like people love to hang out with me because like, I love your energy. You've got great energy. And I think that is really helpful for people to get through the process because writing a book is a lot of work. And I will not lie. It is a lot of work. Sometimes it can get exhausting, right? Like any big project, you can be like, oh God, I don't want to do this anymore. But I love to help people like just like boost them back up and be like, okay, yeah, we're going through this not great period of writing your book, but you know what? It's going to get better and you're going to be so happy when you get that book in your hand. So like I can be their cheerleader. I love being people's cheerleader. That's a lot of fun. But I think the main reason why people want to choose me is again, like I'm very transparent. I'm very authentic. Like I will always tell you my professional advice, but I always give you, the creator, the choice of where you want to go with your creative work. Like if you say, I want the cover to have paint splotches all over it and no title, I'll be like, that's not really a great idea. I'm not going to advise you to do that professionally. But if they really want to do that in the end, my client, that's the really hard sell on that. That's perfectly fine. Like this is their project. So I will let them do that. Thank goodness I've never had anybody ask me to do that, Anthony. So, but I think that's my thing is like, I am not the writer who's the pushy writer. I know some writers are like, oh my God, you're correcting my work. Like it's not my work. This is their work. This is my client's work. This is my client's soul and my client's like love and their passion, right? Like who am I to say you should write this differently? Now, I always give my advice and say like, hey, why don't maybe we should write it this way? Have you considered this to make their book literally better? Literally to make the book sound more professional. Let's say it that way. But I'm never going to step on toes. And so I know some writers are like that. Some writers are very like, oh, my writing, you can't change it. It's like, no, this is not my work. This is your work that I'm assisting you to put out in the world. And I want it to be your work that you love and that you are going to be proud to show off to your family, friends, and colleagues.
That's awesome. I know we could go down all the rabbit holes when it comes to writing, publishing, all this stuff, but in general, is there anything that I missed or failed to ask that you wanted to add?
I think the only other thing I want to add is if you're listening to this and you're seriously considering writing a book, don't ever write a book just to make money because the book, what we say in the publishing industry is writing the book is only the easy part of publishing your book, right? Because you have to do the book marketing to sell your book. And book marketing is definitely hard. It's a lot in there. But if you just want to publish a book and you want to publish a book as a memoir to give to your grandkids or your great grandkids or just like for your family to let them know the stories that you never told anybody or you didn't get a chance to, I would say go for it. Like if you don't want to sell your book and you just want to write a memoir, go for it. If you are a speaker and you want to sell your book, go for it. But I say don't go into writing a book with the intention of selling like 1 million copies of it because most of the time, unless you're an A-lister, that's not going to happen. Now, I'm not going to say that's never going to happen because Tim Ferriss wasn't an A-lister, but he had a good strategy and he figured out the right person to talk to at the right time who put him on the bestseller list and he got lucky. But most of us don't get that lucky and most of us don't make that fabulous connection right off the bat with our first book. But make sure that you know the purpose of your book before you go into it.
For those that have a book inside of them that really need it out, how do they get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on today, Anthony, to talk about ghostwriting. I love this is obviously something I'm super passionate about. Yeah. So if you want to get a hold of me, the first call is absolutely free. It's a get to know you call to see if we click, and you can get a discovery call by going on my website, which is www.writeforyou.me, and it's spelled WRITEFORYOU.me. You can also check me out on my podcast and my Substack, which has the same name. It's called Publishing for Professionals.
Perfect. If anybody would like to get a hold of Lynn, absolutely do it. I'm going to put all that in the show notes so it's super easy to find. Reach out, have that conversation. I can't remember the statistic, but it's most people want to write a book at some point in their life. So there's nothing stopping you now, especially with self-publishing, with experts out there like Lynn. The barrier to entry is a little bit lower. But because of that, you want to stand out from everybody else as well. So having somebody be able to help you write the best version of your book is definitely valuable. So reach out, have that conversation. Don't be shy. If anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can also visit me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Lynn. If you were somebody you would know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But thank you so much for coming on and pouring into us. Like I said, most folks want to write a book. It's intimidating and it's daunting, but people like you out there are really helping a lot of folks, and it's super awesome. So I'm excited that you guys are doing good work. So let's all take that to heart. Let's go have an awesome day and grow our circles. All right.